All right. Welcome to part two of Philosophy of Law.
I'm your host, Ryan, aka I'm not gonna do the Turd Ferguson bit. Normally, like when I sign into this thing, I have a
Yeah.
better name for it based off of things that I've looked up during the week. But Turd Ferguson, I just saw a clip of Sean Connery and Burt Reynolds on fake Celebrity Jeopardy on SNL.
Uh-huh.
And Burt Reynolds, he's always like, "Yeah, I'm Turd Ferguson," and he just thinks he's so funny. And I'm like, "Fuck it, I guess I'm Turd Ferguson this time because like I can't think of anything more creative." So
Yeah.
yeah,
I do like those old SNL bits.
yeah, I always like how Sean Connery's always like, "And I fucked your mom." That's always his bit. Same thing over and over again. But he was fucking, he's hilarious when he does it.
SNL is just not the same it used to be.
It's really not though. Though I did appreciate the Andy Samberg and Tina Fey years. But
Yeah.
beyond that, it's like, what are y'all doing? Uh,
Yeah, it's definitely changed.
yeah.
And welcome to Ethica America, where we talk about SNL.
Amongst other
Right.
things. Here's your host, Aaron.
And I'm Aaron.
I'm Ryan. Hi. I missed y'all. Just disorganized as shit today. So
Oh, that's fine. And here we are talking about the philosophy of law. And where we left off, we were talking about company towns. And we're like, man, company towns, there's nothing wrong with those, right? There's been just a
well,
history of good intentions from companies that have their own town, and they force people to pay taxes, and they also uh, have their own wages for the company employees, and then you can't also buy anything outside of the company town, so you have to buy that, and those wages or those prices of goods and services are based off whatever the company says, and they can rise or decrease those prices based off how much the people are being paid, and they also control that
I
price and
had a
also how
banana for
much they pay in
lunch.
rent.
That was a $10 lunch. Ooh, am I
And I,
stuffed?
and I make $3 an hour,
No, I
so
make
I
like
now owe the
5.
company $7.
Yeah, I mean, like, I make $3 an hour, but at the end of the day, like, I can't afford to pay my rent and eat a banana for every meal. Uh,
So that's the issue with company towns is if they have complete control of everything and there's no
well, let's
government interference, then
well
but
let's
we have a
let's back up.
capitalism.
Let's
Okay,
back
let's
up a
back up.
hair. So,
Okay.
like, what is a company town, right? Like,
Uh,
let's
a
start with that.
town a town owned by a company.
Well, yeah, but like, why wouldn't you just live outside of town?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe because there's not a town close enough to the business, so it doesn't make sense.
Well, the idea there is that they basically build this factory in the middle of nowhere, right? And they're bringing in people who
Oh,
don't have any sort of like real job skills, or maybe they do, right? In some
yeah.
instances, they do. Those 10% of
Let's
people
let,
or 20% of people who actually have skills, but most of it is just going to be factory workers, right?
let's make a hypothetical situation that has never existed before. Let's say we need to mine a resource to power a power plant. Let's just say, I don't know, coal, since we still have coal power plants.
Chattanooga's looking down on you right now.
Let's say there's a mine somewhere where there's coal, and the company is like, all right, well, we know it's inconvenient for you to travel by train, 3 hours to get to this job, to work for 15 hours a
No, no, no,
day
no,
and then
no.
drive three
Let's
hours back.
let's back up a hair. This
Okay.
coal mine it's in the middle of nowhere, right? And we can get that land for dirt cheap.
Yeah.
We can get that land for like pennies because nobody really knows what's here. We send out our own geological team to be able to like determine if there's even anything looking at here. And they're under an NDA, so they can't say shit.
Yeah.
So
So they
we
say,
already
no,
bought
there's
the
nothing
land,
here.
but the land was
Yeah.
pricey, and we need to recoup our losses for our stakeholders, shareholders. Sorry, and we need to do it
Is this
quick.
like real now?
What?
Are company towns coming back?
I mean, I'll
I
send you
hope
the
not.
link. Give me a sec.
Oh my god.
Elon Musk Company Town, Texas.
I hate it. Like none of those words in this sentence were good.
Well, and the worst part is about all this, right? It's not exactly like he's mining some sort of illicit material here. This is just like it's literally this town, this area, it has nothing, right? So it's not
Yeah.
exactly like he's doing anything for this area. It's not like he's mining an illicit resource such as coal. So anyhow, there's the link.
It's called Snailbrook.
Yes.
That's a terrible name too.
The only way to get out is out of snail's pace, though.
I don't want to. All right. So he's playing a Texas Utopia.
Yes. Though,
Oh my
I mean,
god.
do keep in mind that's Wall Street Journal, so they're probably biased.
Okay.
They are owned by
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos. We established this.
We did have an episode where we talked about the news and how it's awful. So, all right, I'll take all this with a grain of salt.
I've got another article for you, so don't worry. It's not just the Wall Street Journal. This is the Guardian, which is like somewhere in Europe. So I think it's in the UK.
All right, well, I'll be a good American and I'll only read the headline of.
There's another link for you. I'm gonna just give you a bunch of headlines now. Oh, okay. So here's the New York Post, which we identified
as hellish heavenly history.
Yeah,
perfect.
Got another link for you. Hail Chattanooga.
I mean, maybe he's going to be super ethical and be like, everything is, super great. And
I got another link for you. It's from Architectural Digest.
Will be a live work community. Oh no. For the billionaires companies. I don't like it.
Yeah, so company towns are Elon Musk is trying to bring them back. He thinks it's a great way to bring in revenue.
Well, I thought Bezos was talking about how he's going to have apartments for the Amazon employees so they don't have to ever leave.
Yeah.
But maybe that was just a weird headline that I read, and it's not real. But that's just sort of like what it reminds me of is basically like the person's whole existence is now just to survive for this one company. And they're basically just only existing for this person. It's a weird, not slave, but kind of
I don't know. You can never get out of
situation where
debt.
the person's stuck. Yeah. I mean, if it's like a socialism type thing, it might work. But like,
I need to link you this guy who's on TikTok who goes through all the aisles of Walmart and other grocery stores, right? Where he goes through like who owns these companies, and it's usually either BlackRock or Wells Fargo or JP Morgan or Morgan Stanley. It's usually like those four. I need to link that to you so that way you can.
You should.
Yeah, because
those are all just major hedge funds and banks that just own everything.
So
everything's just owned by 10 people.
Pretty much. But like he goes through and he's like, this is the only brand of shit that you can buy at your local retailer, whether that be Target or wherever. Right. Mm-hmm. These are the only brands that you can buy where you're not benefiting these people.
Oh.
So I'll find that link later. I'm subscribed to him on TikTok. It just might take me a couple days.
Well, there's a cereal called Magic Spoon that's $9 a box. And hopefully I'm not supporting any rich billionaire with it.
Is it good?
You wouldn't be. I paid for it.
I don't
You're
know. Is
not.
it good, Amanda?
I like it.
Well, she likes it. What I really hope is something like that. It's expensive because it's an independent person that just needs to make that needs to price it at that for it to be profitable.
Wow.
And I'm 100% in support for that. So I actually don't care if the box of cereal is $9 as long as it's good and it's benefiting someone that's just living their life and wanting to have a dream of having good cereal. Then good for them, man.
It
I'll
is
support that.
benefiting Gabby Lewis, co-founder of Magic Spoon. Oh, it's a he, apparently.
Oh, good.
It's weird that a boy would be named Gabby. I guess I'm not judging that much, but I'm judging enough. So, like,
I've always thought the name Taylor was weird because whenever I hear the name Taylor, I immediately think of a guy. But
yeah, I always think of guitars. Yeah.
oh yeah, I also know way more people that are women that are named Taylor though. So my perception on reality is just weird.
Not really. I mean, the most famous Taylor in history is probably Taylor Swift, and she charges like, what does Taylor Swift charge for a concert now? Like $5,000 a person.
I don't know. Probably like $200, but then all the tickets have to go through.
The average resale ticket for for the concert at the time of this publication is $1,600.
Is that the price that she wants it to be at, or is that just Ticketmaster?
That's how much it costs to see Taylor Swift on the Eras tour. The average cost is $1,600 a person.
Are you looking at her website? Or
no, this is U.S. News. But you can also look at it at the LA Times, where it's $11,000 to see Taylor Swift. It says $800 to $11,000 on StubHub, but scalping could be involved with those $11,000 tickets.
Oh yeah, for sure.
$910 is what I'm finding on SeatGeek to go see Taylor Swift. So, Business Insider says it's closer to $3,800. So, yeah, she's basically doing the Led Zeppelin thing. Do you remember when Led Zeppelin came back together for like one reunion concert, and they had
they're
a
also
lottery?
touring right now.
Led Zeppelin is.
Yeah,
this was
they
like
have
5 years ago.
Oh no, they're doing like this weird thing right now where they're going to be touring. Because I
didn't actually.
You remember that story I had where I had made a friend at the Cinders restaurant?
I don't.
Did I tell you that?
I don't think you
Where
did.
we went to Cinders and we just got sat down, and this random guy just walked to our table and sat down with us and started talking about Led Zeppelin.
It sounds like he smokes weed.
Well, he said he did a lot of cocaine in his time, and
okay.
But yeah, this random dude that was like in his he was like 69,
I don't even know
70.
what a Cinders is. Is that like an Applebee's or something? Is it like
Cinders? Yeah, it's basically an Applebee's.
Okay.
Yeah, he just was like chilling by himself in a booth, and then when we got sat down behind his booth, and he just turned around and started talking to us about Led Zeppelin.
Oh man,
it was crazy. And then he came and sat down with us, and he's like, "Hey, pull up this YouTube video of Led Zeppelin playing," and we wanted to watch it on my phone. It was a crazy experience. And then he got
these encounters with people.
But wait, it gets better.
Oh, good.
So he didn't have any money, and he got banned from Cinders a year and a half ago because he dished out on his bill. So he got in again, and he didn't have any money. And so later in that evening, he got arrested because he was going to dine and dash.
Dude, man,
and then he asked us to pay for his meal.
Dude, there's a simple solution to that problem, by the way, because I've been in that situation a couple of times in my life where it's like my card got declined, and I'm like, oh, fuck, well, grab me another beer and we'll figure this out in half an hour. And the waiter looks at me all nervously, right? And walks away. And then, like, you go over to somebody and you pull out your car keys and you're like, hey, so, like, I found these keys around your table. Do they belong to anybody over here? And, like, they'll always say, no, they don't belong to any of us. And I'm like, fuck, I just want to make sure these get back to the right owner. So like, I'm gonna drop these off the front desk. Like, I'm gonna tell the waiter I found them over here. But like, can you
Hmm.
just raise your hand like when I point to you, so that way they know what table, because it's kind of busy in here right now. And then you go over to the waiter and you're like, yeah, that guy over there, he decided to comp my bill. And you're holding your keys in your hand and then waving, you point. And then they'll almost always wave their hand.
Hmm.
And then they're like, oh, okay, if you say so. And then you wave again to that guy and you just walk out. It's that simple. Like, I don't know why
Oh,
this guy at Cinders like didn't know that simple like social interaction to have that happen. And I'm not saying that that is at all ethical. I'm saying that I was a broke college kid at some point, and I had like 3 people's beers on my tab who all walked out on me and did the same thing that night. Somebody else's problem now.
well, he did not do that. He tried to make friends with us because he probably thought he could get us to pay for his meal, or maybe I don't know. Maybe it was just a crazy old guy
I have
with
no idea.
that was just forgot his wallet.
Maybe
I don't know.
maybe he worked in a company town and like he was outside of the company bar.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the company in town took all his money
Yeah, and now
because he had
he's
to
left with
spend.
like $30.
Yeah,
He can spend that
he had to
money at the
spend.
commissary for like a pack of
Yeah,
Ritz crackers. Not even a box, you get a pack. So there are a lot of
just
dangerous
working for the man.
there are a lot of dangerous things about the company town, by the way. A lot of
Yeah, I
dangerous
don't.
things.
It's a slippery slope of controlling people, and I don't like it.
No.
And I already feel like capitalism is controlling people now anyway.
Well, at this point,
And
when you have like so many billionaires per state, like, and everybody's preaching about record breaking profits, it's like you're really only paying into that top 1%. You know what I'm saying? And
right,
from a perspective of why law existed in the beginning, where we're just trying to protect the people from each other, because we realize that somebody might have something shiny that somebody else might want. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
that's inherently ethical. You know, okay, well, this guy has the diamond. You don't. So, like, you stealing the diamond, that's not cool, man. Like, taking it from
no,
that to, well, these billionaires are paying for your way of life. Like, you got to pay them back.
yeah,
They have enough
no.
money. They
I
have enough
also
money.
think that there is a thing called like universal law where some things are inherently wrong to do. And a lot of people, I think, do have some laws in mind that, yeah, I would never do this because it's inherently wrong. Like there are some things I'm never going to do
Right.
just
Well,
because
I'm never going to
I
sell
think it's wrong.
myself as a sex worker.
I mean, I would do that
Oh, okay.
just because it would it's easy money and I don't have to work for capitalism.
Well,
I'm my own self-employee.
so you're basically a company contractor for a semi truck business, just
Yeah,
delivering your load
basically.
wherever.
Yeah. So,
I'm
I mean,
way
that's
too
fine.
much.
I feel like that's fine. I mean, I think OnlyFans is a great idea, but I mean, I do know that OnlyFans does take a percentage of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair
But
though. I mean, like, it's not like the servers are free or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
nobody's really against a company making some form of profit. What we're
Yeah.
getting at here is the idea that it can easily be abused by the wrong person to take more than their fair share. And the people
Yeah.
who desperately need that money, because, like, America, I don't know if you know this, but like, y'all ain't doing great in the world of finance. Like, this top 10%, yeah, probably, but most of us live below the 20%. And
And honestly, I'm fine with it. Like as long as I have a roof over my head and I can get my Hello Fresh every week and I can get my Starbucks every week and I have enough money for my video games and internet and for my child to also eat Hello Fresh, then I'm cool. And I also had to buy Baldur's Gate. So
Yeah, you were telling me about that, by the way. Did
yeah,
you? Did I send you the link where the guy got turned into a block of cheese by a wizard, or have you been to
no,
that point yet?
I have not.
Okay, I'll have to find it for you later. So it was kind of amusing because like he was moving around, but it's a block of cheese with like slice taken out of, so you just see it rolling
Yeah,
and then it stops for a second because it lands on the them. It was kind of amusing, but you said it's a good time. So
yeah. Baldur's Gate's a good time. 10 out of 10.
yeah,
Highly recommend. If you like D&D, you'll love Baldur's Gate.
yeah, that's fair.
Um,
I've been
but
wanting.
also,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. I was
No.
going to go back to company towns
Oh,
and
I
how
was just
U.S. history has not had a good history of company towns.
yeah. Well, I was just gonna say that like instead of buying Boulder's Gate right now because it's just gonna be a fresh release for the PS5, and I feel like there are gonna be some kinks that they need to iron out. That I'm gonna try uh, Dying Light 2 uh, next.
Oh, Baldur's Gate has been out for PC for almost a month now.
Yeah,
So next week when it comes out on PS5, all the kinks should be out of it. So it
well,
should
I
be
would have
working fine.
hoped, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
It hasn't been on Xbox yet because they're having an issue implementing
That's why I'm
something from
worried about the
Xbox
PS.
X and X. Well, the one thing that they're having issues with is um like same screen play on Xbox X and Xbox S. So they can't release it if it's not working on both.
Same screenplay, so that means that like I can play with
You can have you
four
can have two
people
people
here.
playing on.
Oh, two people.
I don't know how many people, but I
But
feel like eventually it would get kind of confusing
yeah, but I
with
could
more than
play with
two
somebody
people.
else on the
Yeah,
PS5 here.
yeah.
Oh,
Supposedly, I haven't tried it out,
I'm gonna have to look
but
into that. I didn't know that.
yeah,
Instead, I'm gonna just kill zombies. So,
yeah. You can also do cross save. So if you have a I've been playing
oh,
for
I see.
about 100 hours on the PC, but my save file's in the cloud,
Mm-hmm.
and so I can upload that same file on the PS5 if I bought it for the PS5.
Oh, well, that's cool. I didn't know
Yeah,
these things.
yeah, it's cool.
So, from an ethics or even a philosophical perspective, like, uh, so we maybe we didn't explain this well enough, but a company town basically is a town that's financed by the company that you're going to be working for. So if
Right.
you let's say that you're in Texas working at the Tesla plant, though that's not exactly how a company town works. So maybe let's take this back a step. So let's say you're in the West Virginia mountains and you're mining for coal. Coal can't be
Hmm.
found anywhere else, and you bought this 3 square mile plot, right? Now, maybe a quarter of it is the mines, but you can go down under and do whatever the fuck you want under the ground. Nobody really cares. That other 3/4 of a mile, you had to buy the entire, or that other 3/4 of the space.
You're right.
You had to buy that as part of the deal, but really the coal will pay for itself, pay for everything. But it's still like a little bit of profit, but it's also like 50 miles back to any sort of civilization. So what do you do with the rest of the land? You build a town. And in that
Yeah,
town, you build your own version of Walmart. And you build your
exactly.
own gas stations. And you build your own apartment complexes and houses and all these things. And
Yeah, you
then
build your own town.
and then you finance that through your employees, basically.
Yeah. So you set the price of the banana at whatever you like,
ten
but you
dollars a
also
meal.
know but you also know how much the employees are making. So you can definitely just and you know that they can't go anywhere else
Yeah.
and they can't leave. So you have just this debt to the company. And in mining towns, that debt would go back to the other family members too. So if the person died, then they have to repay that debt.
Yeah.
It's
I forgot
scammy.
about that.
It's a scam.
Yeah. But we're bringing them back apparently. So, but
Well,
before you got a house that you could never pay off, or at least like you'd have to work there 30 years to be able to pay it off, now you get an apartment, maybe? Question mark. And none of the resources are actually at this place. It's just wherever they could get the land cheap enough or the pre-existing building cheap enough.
Yeah. I don't know.
Philosophically, though, going back to that caveman time, that let's say that our tribe is up to 16 people, right? And like we just got some we just very basic rules, right? Like don't kill, don't steal, like just don't be a dick. You know what I'm saying? Now, it's not about being part of that tribe. It's about being part of that tribe and then surviving in another tribe simultaneously. That tribe that's trying to take everything away from you.
Yeah.
Literally, they're going to give you money so you can spend it back on them. So you just become an investment to the company.
Company towns inherently aren't bad because it's basically just like a serfdom. But the only thing that makes them bad is the person who is in control of it.
Right. And it's like if you just redistribute some of that wealth, maybe a little bit more liberally, then it's like, oh, here's a cheap housing option that's near to work for you. If you want to go somewhere else, then whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because basically, a company town could just be a good form of socialism.
It very well could be. But that's the problem when you have people looking out for profits governing these sorts of things. A government's supposed to be there to protect you, to have your individual interest at.
Right. So if the government can still chime in on the company town and be like, hey, you actually can't control these people in that sort of way, then it's probably fine.
As long as it's fair.
Right.
But a lot of these people, well, a lot of these people will enter into this because they don't really have anywhere else to go.
Yeah.
And they need a skill. And they're not necessarily going to teach them a skill, but they'll bring them in at a high wage, knowing that they can make most of that wage back. So essentially, they're just paying you less than minimum wage in a legal way.
What would be more fucked up actually is if the company town made a deal with the government to get the homeless people in on this company town to bring down homelessness, to bring up property taxes, so BlackRock and the other hedge funds that own the housing department can raise the housing prices to make it harder for people to buy houses or to own places because now they have to rent. Oh man, is this really what's going on? Is this like a dystopian country right now where like
We're
Elon
entering
Musk
into it, I
and
think.
this is like if I just describe something that's actually true, I hate it.
It's not quite that bad. I don't think.
Yet. No, I don't know.
Yeah, yet
I do
yet
know
is a
that
good yet is a good word for that.
yeah.
Right now, it seems
Yeah, this seems like a plausible situation where the government is like be like,
right.
hey, we have this homeless problem in California, but here we go, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, get your company towns going. They don't have anywhere to go, and they get free housing. All they have to do is work for Amazon or Elon Musk. Who cares?
And I mean,
Housing prices go
honestly,
up, and
it's like you said. The idea of a company town in itself is not inherently unethical, and it could actually be a good thing. But
yeah,
historically speaking, it has never been a good thing, and it's just been a means to, what did we say laws were there for? To control behavior?
guide behavior because we can't control people.
This becomes a means to further guide behavior,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get closer to that level of control that corporate America seems to like because they like their numbers to be nice and orderly.
And the only people that can actually control it is the government. But if the government is all for it, then there's no law.
I mean, technically, the people can just
True. They can
work for.
uprise.
Yeah, there's well, and there's no reason for these people to migrate to these
Remember when the
towns.
mining company uprose and there was a civil war and the government came
Jesus
in and sent in the
Christ.
military?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
Well,
remember
and
that
it's not
too.
even just the military. They would also send in these private investigators. These private investigators. These private investigation firms to look into like what was happening, right? And then these private
Yeah.
investigation firms would just be there to basically mow people down with machine guns who were still on strike.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
crazy,
we probably won't get to
crazy
that
time.
level because we're more civilized now. Now we just know how to manipulate people to an even more grandiose degree. How this idea, because it wasn't inherently a bad idea.
No.
Like it just seems kind of like to some degree a socialism thing where it's like, hey man, like you come and work for us. We know we're out in the
Yeah.
boonies. Like we'll build a town here. Yeah, you'll have to pay for your fair share, but like, just understand that like we're gonna give it to you for like the right price. That's a that's a cool idea.
So it also sounds like, okay, so let's say this company town, you just work for this company and everything's free and
Yeah,
all you have to do is work there.
yeah.
Now this is just a prison.
I mean, basically,
Yeah.
it's you have to invest in this, and we know how people are. Like think about
Yeah.
gambling tables as an example of it, like a casino or whatever, right? You're this close to winning every time that you invest 50 cents more or $1 more or $10
Hmm.
more or $20 more. You're more invested that this
Yeah.
table will pay out soon. The odds tell me that they're going to pay out soon, but the odds are never stacked in your favor.
No.
So it's like I just got to do 10 more years at this wage to pay off the house, and then the house is
Right.
mine. But the odds are never stacked.
Yeah. If it's a community where everything's free and they're just handed stuff and they just kind of have to work there, but they are free to leave whenever they want, it seems fine. I mean, maybe they don't get anything from it except for free housing and free food and stuff like that. If they actually get a wage, then and also all the prices aren't
Stacked against them.
astronomical. Right. If they
Yeah.
can, like, maybe if it's like a way for almost people to just get back on track where they have an address, they have skills.
I mean, all that seems like it would be solving a problem, right? But we both know that corporate greed generally doesn't agree with humanitarian efforts. They
Right.
will put on the facade that they do. And that's what happened with the initial corporate towns, company towns, by the way. So eventually, like, these people couldn't afford to pay even their houses. And then they uprose against them. Can't remember there were a few towns. And then these private investigative firms were hired to basically just be thugs and just squelch any sort of uprising. And then they were illegal, or at least I thought they were illegal. I don't know that they are necessarily illegal now.
Yeah, I don't think I don't know if there is any laws prohibiting company towns right now. And I don't think they were ever made illegal. I just thought that I think actually what happened was capitalism evolved in such a way where it wasn't necessary to have company towns anymore.
Yeah, basically, you'd have these towns that were closer to, as
Yeah.
opposed to like instead of a wagon ride day away, right? You
Right.
they were, I don't know, 4 hours in a car away. And then that 4 hours became 3 hours, and that 3 hours became 2 hours eventually.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
they
I think
just fell out of favor, probably.
yeah. So I don't know why I don't think I don't know what the incentive is for people to actually go back to a company town because homeless people enjoy being homeless usually. Or some of them do.
Usually.
Some of them
I mean, a lot of them
don't,
are just
you know.
PTSD guys, like,
Yeah.
you know, like, or people with mental health who never got the proper treatment.
Yeah.
Maybe the next step for these company towns is to provide that treatment, and maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe this
Yeah,
doesn't
maybe
have to be a repetition of history, but it just kind of seems to me like people looking for a cheap labor force and looking to recoup those lost profits when it comes to labor costs.
Maybe we're just looking at it too negatively because we've always had a negative association with company towns. Maybe they're doing great work.
Or
They're
maybe it's the
basically Mother Teresa.
or maybe it's the fact that you have Elon Musk, who is the world's wealthiest man, a billionaire who built his money off the backs of hundreds, if not thousands, of people to become the richest man, to make $5 off of every dollar they make. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's the fact that his mother and father were part of the apartheid and made most of their money off of diamonds, which mostly were built off of the wages of essentially slave labor. Maybe you're right, and maybe I'm just
Yeah.
wrong.
Maybe
But I'm
we just need to
probably
be more
not.
optimistic.
But I'm probably not wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely not my situation with the weird dystopian society.
No, definitely not. Right?
Definitely not that.
Elon
That'd be
Musk
weird,
is a
though.
great guy.
Yeah, and Jeff Bezos is a great guy too.
Fuckers. They
Kinda.
could sell their mom for $100,000. They'd do it to add to their net worth, and that would mean nothing to them.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
So maybe we should just tax them more for Social Security so we can have Medicare for all.
I'm thinking about this. No, but if you did legalize marijuana, though, right? I know it's an entirely different conversation, but if you legalize marijuana and then put a heavy tax bracket on it of, we'll just say 20%, right?
Yeah.
Then that would probably pay for Medicare for all.
Maybe.
I mean, it's
He
what
probably.
I mean, historically, that's what happens, right? People need money, so where's the first place that the people looking for extra revenue go to? They tax the smokers, they tax the drinkers.
Yeah. Or tax the poor. I mean, there was a talk about so right now, if you are under a certain tax bracket, you don't pay any taxes. But someone
Yeah.
brought up the idea of even if you are under that threshold, if you pay $1, then that will bring in more income to the government to pay for more stuff.
So let me get this straight. The idea is that we've paid them $37,000 a year or whatever they get for Social Security or whatever government assistance, right? But instead of paying that, now we're just paying $36.99, and it's supposed to be a great deal. They pay that dollar in taxes.
Yeah, the idea is since like the poor, they don't pay any taxes at the end of the year with their income because they didn't make enough.
This
but
is
if
the
they just paid
dumbest
$1,
fucking idea I've ever heard. Because it's literally like instead of paying them, let's say that they get $10,000 a year, right?
Yeah.
Their idea is that instead of the government paying you $10,000 a year, you're going to pay $1. That's the idea. So essentially, that comes down to instead of paying them $10,000 a year, we're going to reduce your wage to $9,999 a year.
Yeah, and the government gets $1.
And
if
they save $1. They're already paying them. Like, you understand what I'm saying, right? It's the dumbest fucking idea.
Let's say 20% of America makes under $10,000 a year. That's like, I don't know, 20% of 331 million. That's extra millions that the government can just spend on military. What is the 20%?
Idea is they're phrasing it in such a way that like it seems like revenue, but it's just less cost. It's the dumbest fucking thing I've heard in a very long time. Like $1.
Yeah, $1.
Fuck.
So
how about
it's so annoying too, because you have to spend like 2 hours just doing your taxes to pay $1, and I bet they'll have like a transaction fee of like,
now I am not saying that like any sort of 18-year-old can make the correct decisions for their life. And I'm not saying that like everybody has a defined path because nobody does.
Are
But
you saying that 18-year-olds shouldn't have the responsibility to take out $20,000 in student loans?
well, I would definitely agree with that. That just seems like a dumb fucking idea. Whoever came up with that idea, like that's why I'm so far in debt. That was a bad
Okay.
idea, whoever came up with that idea. But nonetheless, but here's an idea, right? Maybe instead of teaching everybody to be accountants and engineers, right? Right out the rip, maybe instead of that, we put a little bit more money into teaching them applicable skills. Maybe giving them even some parameters to like test what they like and what they don't, right? Because somebody might like welding, somebody might like somebody might like doing like electrician work, somebody might find great love in doing plumbing. And I'm not saying that any of these jobs are ideal. I'm really not, but they are the jobs that are out there that are skilled labor that's it's currently decreasing at a very rapid rate because nobody wants to do these jobs. Nobody wants to crawl up into a crawl space and figure out how the fuck your attic was supposed to be wired to begin with and why the last guy did such a shitty job.
Well,
You know
good
what I'm saying?
thing there are construction companies that are making great houses that are all up to code and all up to par, and none of them are going out of
Yeah.
business because they did such a good job.
Yeah, it's a great fucking thing that some foreman is out there just like, I want to do this as cheap as possible, and we need to do it as cheap. We're 2 houses behind right now. Blah blah blah. We cut them a price at this, and we can't fulfill it because of you fuckers. Even though, like, you never should have cut them a price at that to begin with. Like, it's because you came in. It's the idea of Walmart, right? Do you know how Walmart buys things? By the way, like, let's just take corn as an example.
I think they just go to wish.com and get it for like pennies
I
and then
mean,
sell it
that's
for.
that's more or less how it works. I mean, they basically have a reverse auction where some farmers like, I will sell you 100. They're like, we're looking for
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
300 bushels, and Walmart's like, well, we're looking for 300 bushels at 40 cents. Who can give me 40 cents? And somebody's
Yeah.
like, I'll give you 39 cents a bushel
Hmm.
or whatever. I don't know the going rate of corn. But then somebody else is like, I'll give you 35 cents, 20 cents. And
I know
they
you can
basically
buy.
pit all these farmers against each other to
Yeah.
get that price as low as they can.
Well, luckily
And
you can buy corn for 99 cents at Walmart.
yeah, thank God, because that's going to save me from like having a roof over my head in like 6 months. The, the idea of these reverse auctions, the idea of getting things for the cheapest amount possible, for being the lowest bidder possible, to
Mhm.
provide the greatest value to the customer, that idea constantly gets like, instead of doing a good job, they just find ways to cut corners. And from a
Yeah.
philosophical point of view, like there's nothing wrong with it legally.
No.
But why shouldn't there be something wrong with it legally? You're
I mean,
paying for a product, and they're like, "Well, we did 3/4 of the work." You see what I'm saying? And that company house, that company apartment that you're buying, they will build it as cheap as possible, and then they will tell you that repairs are your problem, and they will need to have a bunch of repairs because they did the same thing with the contractors, where they took the cheapest bid possible without understanding the amount of work, the cost involved, and it's deplorable behavior. And eventually, you'll get an apartment that isn't really an apartment, and it'll be a violation of code, and it'll be your responsibility to fix it off the wages that, like, you don't have the money to pay for that. And
right.
that's going to be the new company town, where we built you a house, but we built you a house real fucking cheap. You're not
Yeah.
going to have the money to figure it out.
Or the landlord is gonna raise your rent to pay for that repair.
Yeah, I mean, they could do the variable interest loan thing too, where like they start you out super cheap, and then in 5 years you got to pay an exponential rate that they know you're going to forfeit on. So the house goes back to the bank as far as ownership. is concerned, right? And they just rent it out again to somebody doing the same fucking thing over and over again. And that's my fear.
My fear is that no houses are going to be available to buy anymore, and then you just have to rent up forever
Yeah.
because of company towns or hedge funds.
Or both. I mean, it
I
doesn't
don't
have to be mutually. It doesn't have to be just one thing, and they
know.
don't
Yeah,
even have to be mutually agreeable as far as terms are concerned. It's just
everything's just going to be the umbrella company, and then we'll have a good life running away
yeah.
from zombies.
Well, yeah, because they just deteriorated 50% of the workforce. So, like, I can get my boss's job now as long as I don't
Oh
turn into
man,
a zombie.
yeah. This is why you should just live on a boat, get a filtering system to turn salt water into regular water, and eat fish and drink water.
You know, the ability to turn salt water into regular water is literally just boiling it, right? Like you literally just boil it, it goes up into a distillation tube. The distillation tube cools it, and then it runs down as pure water. And then you do that maybe one more time to make sure that the salt content isn't too much.
And then you need to refrigerate it so it's cold.
Yeah,
I guess you could just
well,
put it back into the water since the water is pretty cold too.
yeah. Yeah, you could actually use that to your advantage within that system. Yeah, so that way you're not using so many fossil fuels. That's actually not a terrible idea. But you do need a way to extrapolate the water, and that's why you would typically cool it. I mean, you typically cool the distillation tube with running water that is cool. So you could probably use that, but you'd need the use of a pump. Either way, though, you get my point. Like it's kind of a scary time that we're going through right now, where we're literally just repeating the worst parts of corporate history, the worst ways that people can make money off of the worker.
It is weird. It is weird how
So
we're progressing, and it doesn't seem like it's getting much worse, unless you just take a look back and just look at your own personal life and just put your head in the sand and just ignore everything around you.
Maine. Yeah.
Then you just get on Boulder's Gate after work.
And you just zone out for hours.
Yeah, yeah, and then you just go back to work, and then that's it.
That seems
I'm
like
sure
a
some people
terrible
do
idea.
that. They're just like, all right, work my 9 to 5 or make their
Well, and
shift work, and then
the worst part about this is that, like, if everybody were to say, fuck you, I want a good wage, and I want
yeah,
my house, and I want these things, right? This wouldn't be a problem because
no,
nobody
but
could take advantage of the masses.
no, it's true. But the system's in such a place where they they control that part, where they make it so people
Anybody who
can't do
talks
that.
about a union, anybody who talks about advocating for workers' rights, anybody
Yeah,
who they will just find another reason to fire you when you become a zombie.
exactly. And it's not like people have a good or a good working wage to begin with to
No,
have that
no,
savings to live off of while they look for another job. And that's also part of the capitalistic idea is they they control inflation, they control pretty much everything about unemployment and employment. So there isn't a way for people to actually negotiate these things, which was what kind of talked about during our um, workers' rights game,
yeah,
is we just don't really have ways to negotiate.
no, no. I mean, for the most part, even if you speak up, everything, all outcomes will be the same.
Yeah, and all jobs are the same too. I mean, it's not like anyone's offering extraordinarily better than any other company. I mean, some people were like, "Oh, we do full-time benefits starting at 30 hours, so you can get full-time benefits working
That's cool,
36 hours."
Starbucks, but you still pay me like $10 an hour.
Yeah,
So like that's not really like yeah, you cheapen my health insurance, but is that really any sort of cost savings to me? Like I can't afford an
yeah,
apartment without a second job.
right.
And
I mean, everyone kind of has to look at their cost of living and then work from there.
Right.
And it's tough. I mean, living's tough. Living's hard.
Affording to be able to live in this world generally, I would agree. And it's the worst part is most people, I would say, at least 60 or 70%
Yeah.
understand that, like, if they were to start a company, they don't want to pay somebody $10 an hour. Like, I was looking into daycare like a month ago, and I'm like, man, could I find a nanny for two kids for like $15 an hour? And I
Good
damn
luck.
sure could. I really could. There were
Oh, okay, nice.
there are sites that pit these nannies against each other for $15
Oh,
an
jeez.
hour, and they like, yeah, basically like they're just hoping that cost pays out and blah blah blah. And it's like,
Yeah.
would it be the worst thing in the world for me to pay for a nanny for
No,
that?
and then
Like,
you're basically making $15 an hour to live off of.
well, that's the thing is that, like, I couldn't ethically hire somebody for $15 an hour
Yeah.
to be able to do this for, it would be over 40 hours a week.
Right.
I couldn't ethically do that. Like, 'cause that's not enough money to deal with my kids. My kids are insane. So,
My kid's an angel and has no issues doing anything ever,
yeah,
except maybe
Eating.
except eating. It's a hard
hard not
task to get
like.
her to eat, and sometimes getting her to sleep. But when she sleeps, she's fun. Right now, she's playing with an app that lets her play guitar.
Yeah.
Or piano or xylophone.
Yeah, so I already bought her a nice Les Paul.
But my contention is this. Now, I could raise my kids, right?
Yeah.
In such a way that I barely have to pay any money. Well, I shouldn't say barely.
Mm-hmm.
But I could lower the cost of daycare to the point that it's negligible, right?
Yeah.
Daycares are already pitting themselves against each other. Like $440 per week for two kids, right? Now I did the math. That's like $11 an hour, right? They'd be a subcontractor. Like, it really wouldn't be that bad.
I can't afford
I
that.
and I, well, I could easily, like, I shouldn't say easily. That's for me putting somebody in daycare, for
Yeah.
putting two kids in daycare, right? To hire somebody as a nanny, I could get somebody for $11 an hour. I have no doubt that I could. And I could get them for 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week, and it wouldn't matter. And I could easily bloat their wages and say that your lunch break is during their nap times and you get a half hour and blah blah blah, right? And I could do these things where I basically am making money off of the backs of them. Rather, I'm
Yeah.
saving money off the backs of them.
Right.
But ethically, I can't actually do that. It's not fair for me to say, hey, so you're going to be here 50 hours a week. I'm going to pay you for 45, right? And I'm not going to pay you overtime. And you're just going to get $11 an hour. And that's it. And you'll have a steady wage. Don't get me wrong, but what's $11
And you'll
an hour
be
for me?
self-employed, so you have to pay your own taxes.
Yeah. You'll have to figure all that shit out. You're a subcontractor for me.
Yeah, because I'm paying you cash.
And it's like, none of that is ethical. And as much as I love my kids, as much as that would be better for them to just have somebody here and have everything out of home, I won't do that.
But it is legal. And a lot of things
But
that
it
are
is
illegal are unethical. And I think that's what people sometimes have an issue with thinking about is unethical things are sometimes legal and illegal things are sometimes ethical.
I'd agree.
Yeah. Like there's nothing inherently wrong with smoking marijuana, but it is illegal. But it's not unethical. I'm doing this to myself. and it makes me happy.
I'd
I don't
agree.
smoke marijuana, but I've heard that it makes people happy. But I
Yeah.
don't do it because
Oh, I do it.
yeah,
So
I don't
there's
have
no
a reason
reason
not
to
to.
justify it. Yeah.
Yeah, I,
You're just
I
fine how you are.
yeah, I've never been high and I've never been drunk, but
I am both things some of the time.
you're the little
So,
things right now.
what?
I don't know. You might be both those things right now.
Oh, I'm not. I'm just.
Oh,
I've been drinking. Yeah, but not high. That makes me better. This is legal, Aaron. You see my point?
yeah. I mean, it is totally legal to drink as
Yeah.
much as you want.
Yeah. I mean, you could. I mean, I'm not drunk though, but nonetheless, though, I could get as drunk as I want. And it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, you just can't
And
drive while doing it.
no, that'd be bad. Especially if I was on a horse in Indiana going more than 10 miles per hour. Oof.
Yeah, and you probably can't work on your machines at work because you can't operate machines while drunk.
Oh, that's fair. I could still do that. I don't know that heavy equipment constitutes as a. I don't know that violates any sorts of laws.
I mean, I think forklifts count as
Oh yeah, I couldn't do that, but beyond that, I don't
Yeah.
know that anything that I would do would. I mean,
But I mean,
you shouldn't be allowed to do things if you're incapable of doing them. Like that should
Right.
just be a law. Like that's
wait, you shouldn't be allowed to do something if you're incapable of doing it.
yes.
But we have old presidents that are doing this job,
Oh, that's
and we have
fair.
old senators.
Hey, you don't get to talk about Mitch McConnell that way. Mitch McConnell froze up because he was.
I have not seen the Mitch McConnell clip yet. I know you sent it to me
I
on
sent it
TikTok.
to
I
you.
just, I know I just didn't click on it. I read the headline and he's like, "Oh, froze up for 30 seconds," and I'm like, "Okay, I know where this."
Yeah, no, like they asked him a question if he was running again in 2026, and he just smiled, and like he had his one advisor came up, and they're asking you if you're going to run again, and you can hear her say something along those lines, right? And then he just kind of smiled at her and didn't acknowledge it, and then another person comes over, and he's like, "Yeah, you either need to say something or not say something," or at least that's how it seemed. I couldn't hear him. And then Mitch McConnell just smiles again, and then like somebody else ends his press conference, and it's like, what the fuck is the point of having these guys in office if? And that's why I was thinking about term limits during
Oh yeah, for
last
sure.
week's thing, because it's like he's obviously not, like, even if he's not responding, he's like the longest term senator of any of the senators.
Yeah.
And B, he's obviously incapable of doing his job to the point that somebody else has to tell him what to do. If that's not a clue to most of America that somebody else is running the show and these are just the faces, then what is? Because if I were McDonald's, or if I were Home Depot, or if I were BlackRock Inc., or if I were Morgan Stanley, that's what I would do. I would pay these senators $50,000 a year, or whatever amount that they asked, start passing legislation so that way my companies could make more than that $50,000 or $60,000 a year. I would be paying them to do that because that's cheaper for me in the long run, and it's not illegal, but it is inherently unethical. And philosophically, as far as the law is concerned, it should be illegal.
Yeah, I mean the law should be making that illegal, but unfortunately,
if you have 8 people in your tribe and somebody's like, I will pay you 8 cows per month if you just have these guys in their spare time work on making these shiny rocks for me, I'd be super grateful. And you get 8 cows. You can do whatever you want. Nobody has to know.
Yeah. You can start an Only Cows.
But yeah, you could. But you get my point. There's nothing illegal about it, but it is inherently bad for the rest of society.
There's a lot of things in our government that are inherently bad that is legal, and it is hurting a lot of people. and that should not be a thing.
Because this is basically just lobbying.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what they get away with it as. Is it's lobbying. I was just reading about Medicaid Part D or Medicare Part D this week, and they were saying that, like, you got all these senators who, yeah, they're older, right, who are making these rules, but 600 lobbyists turned out, and of those 600 lobbyists, most of them were from the pharmaceutical companies, and most of them were from, like, the healthcare providers, so like Blue Cross Blue Shield or whoever, right? Like all of your major health insurance providers. And they were all voting on the idea that the taxpayers would pay money, that money would go back to these companies. These companies would then ask for deductibles and all these rules where they could disqualify you for whatever reasons, right? And they would require more money from you so that way you could get your basic cost of just a medical provider.
Yeah.
And they're not even necessarily going to fix you,
No.
because that doesn't even necessarily include like skin care, no dermatological shit for sure, no teeth, no eyes, none of that insurance. This is just for basic, like, hey, is your heart pumping? Okay, cool. If not, then like we need more money.
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of what this whole thing is about. Is it's like, if you're part of that 8-person tribe and you have one doctor, right?
Mhm.
Let's just say one doctor. That doctor is obviously going to be very important to your tribe because that doctor is responsible for these people's health. And our government doesn't even do that.
No.
It actually, if anything, puts up a bunch of red tape to make it harder for you to get that coverage for anything that's life-saving but expensive.
Yep.
It makes it
True.
prohibitively expensive.
I mean, I don't even have dental or eye insurance, but I also don't need it. But also, if I need new glasses, I'll just pay the money.
I mean, that's how my dad did it too. It depends on the company. Some companies, they provide dental insurance and eye coverage for a good price, but others they don't. But and honestly, we should do the next episode on health insurance, because that really wasn't a thing until after World War II, right?
Right.
When there were wage caps on certain things during World War II, and they were paying women to get it out into the workforce, right? Because previously women they took care of the household and
Right.
they didn't do as much as far as like physical labor was. I mean, of course there were jobs for them, such as the sex care industry that you proposed earlier, but also things like tailoring, though that was mostly done by men. Most industries were done by men, but like cooking and cleaning and stuff like that, that was
Well, I'm starting a new
largely
company called Only Cows.
I heard about this company once.
Yeah.
But as a way, because there were wage caps involved, right? Which wage caps, really, that's our federal government at work to make sure that everything's affordable for them, but whatever.
It kind of sounds like our government is a company town.
Our government believes in socialism when necessary, and they believe in wage caps and things like that when it benefits them.
Right.
And yeah, they are kind of a company town. They're a company man. They're and it's not even them who's the company is the worst part.
Yeah. It's not. Our government's
they're
being controlled
for
by
other companies.
the companies now.
But nonetheless, though,
I'm just glad that everything in our society is great. And we're moving in the correct direction.
Yeah, it's more like a dystopian direction that we're moving towards, but you already know that.
One step forward, 5 steps back to feudalism.
Pretty much. But anyhow, so the wage caps existed, so they had to offer benefits in another way. So what they did was they offered retirement benefits, which that seems like that should easily be controlled by the government. But whatever. So that's one thing. And then the second thing was like health insurance benefits. But going back to our tribal town, right? They would have just taken care of us to the best that they could. Because that's part of being a government, is protecting the people, to make sure that everybody's contributing and that you contribute back to them to ensure a stronger government. But we've gotten so far away from that with our bureaucratic red tape and everything else that it's almost disgusting. So yeah.
I agree.
Anyhow.
Yeah, so tax the rich.
I would definitely agree with that. Even if Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos object, they're getting plenty of money off their company towns. They really don't need the tax breaks anymore.
Yeah. So tax the rich and get rid of the cap. And that's just two things that we could just do that would benefit the mass.
Maybe just try being ethical just once and see how that goes from every standpoint.
I think if the government just like took what they're doing now and just made it 10% more ethical for the masses rather than their pockets. I mean, just think of how much better things would just be 10% better, which is better
for
than
most
zero.
people, but not for them.
No, but
they make a lot of money off of these.
They do.
Concerned investors.
They make so much more money,
and it's really just because of the stakeholders, the shareholders.
We're not even asking for much. We're just asking for like 3 weeks off of work so we can chill.
Put us on par with Europe, and then we'll talk about like how inhuman everything else.
We just want 3 days off a week and not work more than 32 hours a week, and we want some more vacation time. That's not asking much.
Well, when you think about it, Aaron, you're asking for our shareholders to not be profiting nearly as much. Is that really okay? I think it is.
Yeah. We just have to like crash the stock market where it doesn't exist anymore and it'll be fine.
Well, money is kind of the root of all evil here. And it's not even money, it's the greed involved. Money's a fine system. It's just that people find a way to manipulate any system.
I don't need much.
I don't need much money either, but we're both kind of minimalistic in general.
Yeah. Yeah, I just need my Starbucks every day.
Yeah.
And my HelloFresh now.
Yeah. All right, so tune in next week. In the meantime, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Aaron. Goodbye.